How did we go from this?
And now he finds himself alongside Michael Schumacher as top in the record books. The World Championship record is equalled. Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.
To this?
Lewis, we all know that this is a bit of a box to drive at the moment, and sorry for the back also. We will sort ourselves out.
How did we go from this?
Woke up this morning on the verge of an historic 92nd win in Formula One. Records are there to be broken, said Michael Schumacher. The record is broken. Hamilton has more wins than any other driver in Formula One history.
To this?
Jenson Button is down in Parc Ferme as Lewis Hamilton comes to embrace Max.
It looked like the beginning of the end, but it didn't stop there. Hamilton looked for redemption. A fresh start, a new adventure with Ferrari, and what was supposed to be his rebirth is starting to look more like a punishment. The red car isn't roaring like he hoped. His adaptation has been slow, frustrating. Meanwhile, Mercedes seems to be rising from the ashes. The Mercedes-powered teams, McLaren, Williams, and Mercedes itself, are leading the way in 2025.
British sporting superstar born in...
Ferrari, on the other hand, still hasn't figured out how to turn millions into wins. Hamilton holds on to hope. He believes 2025 is just an investment year, that the real impact will come with the new 2026 regulations, that he'll once again have a weapon to fight with. Because there's no room for error, one more title is all he needs to become the most decorated driver of all time. Just one to break the tie with Schumacher.
Second ahead of his teammate, Michael Schumacher is the 2004 Formula One World Champion.
Just one to end the debate. Hamilton made a bold move, and now he's on the brink of repeating the story of so many champions who ended their days in teams that could no longer offer them what they once were.
We'll see afterwards, but yeah, it's nice too that it comes to the end, and thanks to everybody and all the other drivers and everybody.
So much support, flags, so it does feel a little bit different, I have to admit, and it probably will get more and more difficult till Sunday, so thank you.
Will Ferrari be the team that watches the last spark of the hammer fade away? Because the car isn't responding, because Hamilton isn't getting any younger, and because, as always, Formula One and time wait for no one. Stick around as we analyse Hamilton's trajectory and whether he's on the verge of collapse or a comeback. We'll break down his driving and see if Ferrari is truly his path to an 8th title, or the team where it all ends, loved, hated, but never ignored. Lewis Hamilton is one of those figures that polarises, that makes noise, that never goes unnoticed. To some, he's the ultimate icon of modern F1. To others, a symbol of arrogance and unnecessary show. But beyond the headlines, beyond the flash, Hamilton stands for something deeper: struggle. Because his path to success didn't start in luxurious paddocks or Monaco parties. It started in schoolyards in the middle of bullying.
In the past years, I've had racist names being called to me, but lately, if anybody had said anything to me, I would just ignore them.
From a young age, he knew he'd have to earn respect through results. And he did, but not without controversy, because yes, Hamilton can be aggressive against rivals.
And Alex Albon has Hamilton troubles here as he turns in. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton makes contact. Hamilton's going to try again, this time on the inside, a continent touch. Verstappen is out of the race, and that's a big crash into Copse. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen coming together. Hamilton continues on.
Mistakes, aggression, controversial moments. He's had them, but no one can say he hasn't delivered greatness. Because when he gets in the car, the hammer cuts through the air. 7-time world champion. Records once thought untouchable. Total dominance in the hybrid era. A competitive machine, fast and mentally unshakable for a long time. And then there's his off-track side, the fashion icon who shows up to every Grand Prix not in team gear, but designer outfits. The eccentric millionaire, sure, but also the activist. The one who speaks about racism when no one else dared to. The one who invests millions in education, representation, and equity. The one who championed "We Race as One" and called out the sport's silence. And also the older brother who knows better than anyone how hard it is to make it. Because his brother, Nicholas Hamilton, lives with cerebral palsy. And still he races, he competes, he represents, and Lewis supports him with unwavering pride. So whether you love him or hate him, Hamilton is many things. But beyond being a great champion, he's a good human being. And if today the world sees him struggle, it's only fair to remember everything he's had to overcome to get here. But now, the man who once challenged the world is facing his greatest challenge yet. He's changed teams before, leaving McLaren, the team that raised him, to take a gamble on Mercedes.
Do you feel in yourself that it's like you shed a skin and you're kind of, you know, you've been reborn in a sense?
Absolutely, yes. It's a real fresh...
Everyone said he was crazy, but time proved them all wrong. The switch was a masterstroke. An empire, 7 world titles, a dynasty. This time, the script might not repeat itself. Hamilton bet on Ferrari, hoping for a breath of fresh air, redemption, an 8th title. But what he found was a teammate looking down on him, a car that won't respond, an adaptation that just won't come, and the clock isn't stopping. Hamilton is already racing through his 19th season in Formula 1. He's a veteran, a legend, but also a man confronting the real limit of his time. What if Ferrari isn't redemption, but the final trap? What if this switch isn't a new beginning, but the beginning of the end? The 8th title is still missing, and meanwhile the sport keeps speeding forward. Every race is a coin toss. Every season, one less opportunity. Hamilton isn't just fighting for his legacy, he's fighting against retirement. Lewis Hamilton didn't make it to Formula 1 by accident. He was discovered as a child by Ron Dennis, McLaren's mastermind. And Dennis didn't hesitate to make one of the boldest moves of his career, bringing Hamilton straight into F1 in 2007. No warm-up, no detours. But the shock wasn't just his debut, it was who shared the garage with him. None other than Fernando Alonso, 2-time world champion, fresh off his titles with Renault. Alonso was expected to lead, to mentor, but Lewis didn't come to learn, he came to conquer.
McLaren had asked Hamilton to let Alonso through in the final part of qualifying. However, he failed to let Fernando past, despite requests from the team and the obvious anger of his teammate.
From race 1, Hamilton made it clear he wasn't going to play second fiddle. He was fast, he was aggressive, and worst of all for Alonso, he was better than anyone expected. Tension escalated, hierarchies collapsed, the garage split in two, and while Alonso felt betrayed by his own team, Hamilton earned every point, every manoeuvre, every inch of respect. It was a season of civil war.
Alonso having to wait again for the optimum moment to go out onto the racetrack, but he's definitely putting the harder tyres on. There's Lewis Hamilton queuing up behind him. And have they raised the lollipop to let Alonso out? Yep, they want him out of there. Now Alonso's not getting on with it. Only 1:40 to go. Is he blocking Hamilton here? Is that a bit of a tactic within the team there to give Hamilton a bit of a headache? I think it might well be that.
And in the end, it was the Spaniard who walked out the back door. McLaren kept their duel, their long-term bet, a driver they had believed in since he was a kid. A year later, Hamilton sealed what already seemed inevitable. World champion in only his 2nd season. It became clear Hamilton wasn't just a promise, he was a phenomenon, a once-in-a-generation talent, a man born to break history. Being a world champion doesn't guarantee you'll ever be one again, and Hamilton learned that the hard way. After his spectacular 2008 title, McLaren failed him. Not once, not twice, but for 4 full seasons. Lewis, one of the most talented drivers of his generation, was fighting more against the car's reliability than against his rivals. He could win races, sure, but he didn't have the car to compete for a championship. The frustration grew. He watched others step onto the podium while he kept swimming against the current. Then the call came. Niki Lauda, a living legend, offered him a radical change. Leave McLaren and bet everything on Mercedes.
You think he's ready now, do you, to go and really help build Mercedes into domination?
I think he's ready any time to go anywhere because, as you know, for me, he's one of the quickest guys around. There's no question. He's brutal, he's quick, he knows to drive from any kind of extremes, so more you can't expect. So if he's looking for a new challenge by Mercedes, there is certainly a new challenge because, as you just mentioned, he needs to build the car, the team, the people, and everything together.
Mercedes. At that time, it wasn't a winning team. It was a project, a promise, a gamble. The media criticised him. The fans doubted him. Many said he was throwing his career away. But Hamilton remembered something. Michael Schumacher had also done the unthinkable. He left Benetton with 2 titles and built an empire at Ferrari, the most successful one in modern history. Lewis was going to do the same, and in 2013, he put on the silver suit. The first season was about adapting, but in 2014, with the arrival of the new hybrid era, the reign began. Hamilton dominated with authority. He won his 2nd championship. And what came next was a streak of titles that would elevate him to the racing gods. He had bet everything, and he won 2 titles in a row. But then came 2016. Hamilton was already a 3-time world champion. Everything pointed to more domination, until fate decided to teach him another lesson. One you don't learn from books, only from betrayal by an old friend. Because if anyone could beat him, it would have to be someone with the same car, the same weapon. The difference had to be the driver. And that driver was Nico Rosberg. Childhood friends, karting teammates.
two karting mates. They were teammates for years.
But friendship doesn't survive the fire of a title fight. In 2016, a civil war at Mercedes exploded. Every Grand Prix was a tactical battle. Every qualifying session, a provocation. Every wheel-to-wheel fight, an unresolved conflict. Rosberg was all in. He knew he wasn't faster, but he could be more consistent, colder, more surgical. And he was. After 21 races pushed to the limit, the resolution came at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Hamilton won the race, but it wasn't enough. Rosberg became world champion by just 5 points. That championship wasn't celebrated with fireworks. It was mourned through clenched teeth. Rosberg had given it everything. The physical, mental, and emotional effort was so overwhelming. He retired from the sport, said he had nothing left to prove, and he walked away. Hamilton, on the other hand, didn't quit. He stayed, and he swore he'd come back stronger because he understood something. In Formula One, there's no such thing as a comfort zone, and worst of all, you can't trust even your own shadow. That changed him, made him more calculating, more lethal, more of a champion. After 2016, Hamilton was no longer just about speed. He became calculation, cold-blooded precision, instinct, and fire in his eyes, because now he knew how quickly everything could slip away, and if it ever did again, it wouldn't be because he lost focus. With Rosberg out of the picture, the domination was absolute. The 2017, 2018, and 2019 seasons became Hamilton's personal playground. A masterclass in control on his part, and strategic brilliance from Mercedes. The only word that could describe the outcome: supremacy. Valtteri Bottas had been promoted from Williams, a Mercedes-powered team that had long served as a talent pool for the German outfit. He came in hungry, but it quickly became clear, thanks to Mercedes' cold, calculated operations fully centered around Lewis, their crown jewel, that he wasn't a contender. He was a wingman. Mercedes built everything around Lewis: strategy, car development, weekend execution. Just like McLaren once did during Alonso's era, race weekends became Swiss clockwork. Pole position, clean start, lonely race at the front. His rivals didn't even make it on screen. Hamilton minimized the competition by being lethal from qualifying. Then came the pandemic, chaos, empty grandstands. And yet Hamilton kept winning. No crowd, no noise, just him, his car, and an empty rearview mirror. 2020 was the strangest year in modern Formula One history, thanks to COVID, but also one of the most symbolic. Hamilton won his 7th world title, tying Michael Schumacher. The legend had been reborn. But it still wasn't enough. There were still debates, still doubters. Some continued calling Schumacher the greatest, while labelling Hamilton as merely the most successful. Lewis needed number 8, the definitive one, the one that would shut everyone up for good. Then came 2021, a transition year before major regulation changes. Most teams were expected to hold back resources to invest in the radically different cars of 2022. Mercedes and Hamilton entered the season confident, believing the Hammer would finally claim his 8th crown, but Red Bull changed everything. The RB16B was a missile, and Max Verstappen, young, blisteringly fast and unafraid, wasn't just a challenger, he was a generational threat. For the first time in years, Hamilton had a real rival, and for Max, this wasn't just a title fight, it was war. Verstappen had Sergio Checo Perez by his side, a determined, strategic teammate with something to prove. Hamilton, on the other hand, was stuck with Bottas, who had grown tired of being second fiddle and wasn't fully committed to team play anymore. 2021 was chaos. Red Bull started dominating, the competition was brutal. Crashes, investigations, penalties, explosive team radios. Red Bull looked unstoppable until the Brazilian Grand Prix. That's when Mercedes introduced a new upgrade package that turned Hamilton's car into a rocket. He clawed his way back and arrived at Abu Dhabi, tied in points with Max. Then came the collapse. Hamilton had the title in his hands, and on the final lap, he lost everything. Verstappen became champion, and though wounded, Hamilton showed class. He congratulated his rival. But inside, something broke. There was still hope. The 2022 season would bring new regulations, a chance to reinvent, to rise again. But 2021 was the beginning of the end. 2022, a year Hamilton imagined would be like 2014, a rebirth, a fresh start. The new aerodynamic regulations were supposed to level the playing field, but that's not what happened. Because the change didn't come from the engines, those were frozen until 2026, but from the car's very structure. Ground effect was back. The rules demanded less downforce from wings and more from suction. Air was no longer the enemy, it was the only weapon. Mercedes, arrogant from years of dominance, bet on a radical concept: the Zero Pod. A car with no side pods, visually futuristic but aerodynamically catastrophic. From the very first tests it was clear, the car was a mechanical bull. You couldn't push it without it bouncing like a cursed spring, porpoising. That damn word. the invisible enemy that no one at Mercedes could tame. The bouncing wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. Lewis was getting out of the car with his back in pieces. A 7-time world champion, physically wrecked by a design failure. While Ferrari and Red Bull surged forward, Mercedes fought in the midfield, a nightmare. And the worst part, it wasn't temporary. It wasn't a bad weekend, it was a bad idea. Hamilton endured, he didn't complain, he didn't quit, but his eyes weren't the same. I trust the team, he'd say, but deep down, he knew the season was lost. He had left McLaren for Mercedes in search of a brighter future, and now, Mercedes looked like it was repeating McLaren's mistakes. The greatest champion of his generation was fighting to finish 6th. 2023 wasn't better. It was a trap. Mercedes believed they had learned from the zero-pod disaster, but all they'd really learned was how to survive it. They stuck with the concept, modified it, gave it a new look, but its soul was the same, and it was still broken. Hamilton started the year with cautious hope, but he soon realised the truth. The car was once again a prison. While Red Bull built a dynasty with the RB19, considered the most dominant car in history, Mercedes remained stuck in a concept that simply didn't work. It wasn't just porpoising, it was lack of balance, lack of grip, lack of direction. A car that didn't obey, not in high-speed corners, not in slow ones, not even for Lewis. In the distance, Verstappen flew, and he didn't even look back. A champion who once battled Hamilton for glory now didn't even see him as a threat. But Lewis's enemies weren't just on the track, they were within, because Mercedes was no longer his team. The aura of Niki Lauda, Toto Wolff's unwavering support, the structure built around car number 44, it had all crumbled. Now he shared a garage with George Russell, a young Brit, fast, ambitious, hungry, and backed by the team. Team orders were vague, updates arrived late, strategic mistakes piled up, and meanwhile the media started asking if Hamilton still had it. Had he gotten too old? Was his reaction time gone? His spark? His instinct? Some even called him a helmeted influencer, a distracted fashionista, a spoiled millionaire, as if 7 world titles meant nothing. And while all that was happening, Ferrari reached out, a promise disguised as an opportunity, a light at the end of the tunnel. The hammer couldn't wait any longer. After a season of suffering, 2 years of broken promises, and being humiliated by his own car, Hamilton had had enough. And he made it known in the loudest way possible. Right in the middle of the 2024 pre-season, he announced his signing with Ferrari for 2025. An earthquake, an announcement that stopped the entire grid in its tracks. A move that shook the foundations of Formula One. Because this wasn't just any driver switching teams. This was the man who stood at the summit of the sport alongside Schumacher. The one everyone expected to eventually claim the throne outright with that elusive 8th title that keeps slipping away like a stubborn ghost. And now he had chosen to bet on the prancing horse, the emblem of Formula One, the legend, the history. But also, in recent decades, the disappointment. Hamilton had a full year to say goodbye to Mercedes, but it was a farewell in name only. He raced out of obligation. A year filled with diplomatic statements instead of fire. A year where the spark in his eyes began to fade. He knew the 8th wasn't coming in 2024, still even through the fog, the most successful driver of all time kept breaking records. In 2024, he surpassed 200 podiums, extended his record for most laps led in F1 history, and solidified his place with the most poles of all time. No one has won more. No one has stood on the podium more. No one has made more history. But that's not enough. Hamilton doesn't just want to be a stat, he wants the 8th. And for that, he needs a winning car. He needs Ferrari. But Ferrari might only need him for marketing. Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari looked like something out of a movie. A 7-time champion in red. The living legend of motorsport at the wheel of the prancing horse. And yes, his relationship with Leclerc was civil. Respectful. Even cordial. No ego battles. No fireworks. With Frederic Vasseur, things seemed to flow. After all, Vasseur believed in Lewis from his early years and helped guide his rise. He was largely the reason Hamilton had the courage to leave Mercedes. But fairy tales don't exist in Formula One. As glorious as Ferrari's roar may be, it comes with unwritten rules. At Ferrari, Charles Leclerc isn't just a driver. He's the chosen one. The long-term bet. The man they promised a title from day one. And that wasn't changing for anyone. Hamilton didn't arrive as the star. He arrived as someone who had to prove himself. He had to adapt. So Vasseur made it clear. No special treatment, no privileges, no rock star status. And while it sounded polite, the message was loud and clear. Welcome, Lewis, but Ferrari is bigger than you. Now, the man who once ruled with dominance, who once had the entire Mercedes machine built around his talent, has to start from zero. He must earn credibility, earn results, earn the respect he technically already deserves. But in Ferrari, history matters. And so does the present. And Lewis still hasn't shown he can tame the prancing horse.
I've tried pretty much everything now with the car, so I've learned what does and pretty much doesn't work. And then in terms of the inputs that I put into the car, I'm adjusting those to hopefully start to extract more performance from it.
Lewis Hamilton's start with Ferrari has been a roller coaster of emotions and technical challenges. While all Formula One cars share similarities, each team has its own design and operational philosophy. Adapting to Ferrari's SF25 has required Hamilton to reshape his driving style and get used to new systems and controls. In the first 7 races of the 2025 season, up to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the results of Hamilton and his teammate Charles Leclerc reflect this learning curve. Hamilton's best finishes have been 2 fourth places in Saudi Arabia and Emilia-Romagna. He was also disqualified in China due to excessive plank wear. Leclerc, on the other hand, already has a podium under his belt, a 3rd place finish in Saudi Arabia, a track that suited the Scuderia well, along with 2 4th place results in Japan and Bahrain. He too suffered a disqualification in China, this time for being underweight. In Monaco, they finally saw light at the end of the tunnel. It seemed the pace was back for the prancing horse. In terms of points, Leclerc currently holds 79, while Hamilton has 63. While the difference is not massive, Leclerc has outqualified Hamilton in most races, showing he's far more familiar with the car. However, Hamilton has proven his experience and racecraft, pulling off impressive comebacks, like in Emilia-Romagna, where he climbed from 12th on the grid to finish 4th. This adaptation phase is crucial for Hamilton. As he grows more comfortable with the SF25 and builds a stronger connection with the team, his performance is likely to improve. The season is still long, and the 7-time world champion is determined to keep fighting for that elusive 8th title. Hamilton's journey with Ferrari is just beginning, and while the challenges are clear, his determination and talent may be the key to writing a new, glorious chapter in his career.
It's nothing like the car that I had before. Over the last 10, 12, 17 years, it's unique in its own.
Hamilton has proven throughout his career that he can extract performance from any machine, but this time the challenge is on another level because Hamilton thrives on fine control. He prefers late braking into corners, placing the car from the braking phase. He likes oversteer in a car, but only when the rear axle obeys his reflexes. That's what allows him to slide with surgical precision toward the apex and power out cleanly on exit. He doesn't need an easy car, he needs a predictable one. The problem is, the SF25 isn't. From the very first test at Fiorano, alarm bells were ringing. The rear end is twitchy, unstable, which robs Hamilton of his signature precision at the apex. The braking is unpredictable too, and while Lewis is always acutely aware of the limits, this Ferrari doesn't let him find them easily. The downforce is poor, especially through slow corners, where he's been losing crucial tenths. The drivers have said it bluntly, the car doesn't inspire confidence, and Hamilton can't fly if he can't feel the ground beneath him. That famous late braking that made him a legend, here it punishes him. That artistic oversteer he controls so well, here it turns to chaos. Ferrari knows it. That's why they've changed the suspension layout, redesigned the floor, and tweaked the Venturi tunnels and rear diffuser to improve aeroflow. But while the car evolves, so must Hamilton. He can no longer rely solely on his aggressiveness into corners. He has to adjust his braking points, smoothen weight transfers, and learn to live with a rear end that doesn't always give a warning. He has to adapt his instincts without losing his essence. Because if there's one thing Hamilton has shown, it's that when the odds are stacked against him, he knows how to reinvent himself. At 39 years old, his biggest fight is no longer Verstappen, Leclerc, or even the record books. It's time. It's the machine. It's irrelevance. And if he manages to tame this unruly Ferrari, if he manages to align it with his talent, then no one could ever say that his 8th title, if it comes, was handed to him. It will be once again won by blood and fire. Because if anyone can turn an unstable machine into an extension of his own body, it's Lewis Hamilton. But first he has to survive it. Hamilton's future is written, but in invisible ink, he has a contract with Ferrari until 2027. That gives him time, but not victories. Because in Formula One, contracts mean nothing, and time is a luxury few can afford. Will Hamilton reach his 8th world title? That's the question that echoes in every paddock, every press room, every lap he completes. Because history already has him on its altar. More wins than anyone, more poles, more podiums, more points. The most successful driver ever, but still not the most crowned. Age is no longer an excuse. Alonso at 43 proves that relevance isn't measured in seasons, but in hunger, and Hamilton still has that hunger. But he also has internal competition. Charles Leclerc isn't a wingman. He's Ferrari's golden boy, the chosen one. Can Hamilton coexist with him? Or are we about to witness another fratricidal war, like the one he fought with Rosberg in 2016? Maybe this chapter with Ferrari will be his resurrection, maybe it will be his final fall. No one knows.
What could you say to our viewers waiting something magical from you? What would you say to them?
Don't. Simple as that. Don't wait for anything. Just watch and enjoy. We're working as hard as we can. So that's all I can say. I mean, I have nothing else to add to that.
But one thing is certain, if Lewis Hamilton wins that 8th title in red, he won't just break Schumacher's record. Soldarum kam team he'll break logic, narrative, statistics, and legend. It will be the final blow of the greatest of all time. And if he doesn't make it, if this road ends without that last championship, one truth will remain unshakable. Hamilton never gave up. He didn't take the easy exit. He bet it all. He risked it all. And in the stories of the greatest ever, that's worth just as much as the trophy.